7:14 right now. The clock is ticking on the deadline to cancel congestion pricing. The Trump administration wants to halt the tolls on Friday, which could cripple the MTA.
New York City Transit counting on the revenue for critical infrastructure movements, right? Transit President Demetrius Critchlow joining us this morning from the Mother Clara Hale bus depot in Harlem this morning to discuss these measures and more. So great to see you. And let's begin with why you're even at the bus depot this morning.
Good morning. Good morning. So today is Employee Appreciation Day, probably one of my favorite days of the year, an opportunity to get out there and to tell our employees, a 50,000 workforce of employees, just how special they are. And so actually telling the public, we want you to tell our folks as well. If you see employees out there doing a great job, we want you to tell them that.
Yeah, this is a special day for you too, right? You come from a long line of New York City Transit employees.
Absolutely. Third generation. My father worked here, grandfather worked here. And so really, really proud to build a legacy working here.
Well, glad that you are continuing the tradition, and thank you to all of the hardworking members of the MTA. I do want to talk about some big issues right now, including congestion pricing and this looming deadline, right? What are some of the projects, I guess, when you look at this, that would have to be put on hold if congestion pricing is canceled? And right now, I know it's in the courts, so it's a big if.
No, absolutely. So, I mean, if you think about the benefits of congestion pricing, when you talk about the city and how it has evolved, you know, folks are writing in talking about we've been able to get to the city faster than we ever have. And, you know, while a lot of people may have been skeptics initially, you know, I have close friends who have said, listen, I'm a believer now. It's definitely changed their commuting patterns. And, you know, take the subway, take the bus. We have plenty of capacity to take all of this ridership with us.
Yeah, but the question was, if the funding were to be halted, what are some projects? Give me an example of something that may not happen moving forward because you're counting on that money.
Right. So I think one of the biggest things that we're funding is accessibility. Right. We talked about adding additional accessibility to our stations. And, you know, these are the locations, the things that we actually need to give for our customers.
Well, a lot of folks have been waiting for the 2nd Avenue subway station. Is that one of the plans that could be delayed even more? I mean, can you imagine how much longer people can't handle it anymore, the wait?
That's definitely one of the projects. But I think for me, it's really about state of good repair and also our accessibility projects. Those are just the big takeaways for me.
But is there a backup plan, though, if that happens, if congestion pricing is taken away?
So I let me tell you, I focus on running great subway, bus, and paratransit service. You know, I'm sure that our partners will find the funding that we need to run the system. I'm going to focus on running the best service I can.
Okay, speaking of that, you know, a lot of people are questioning what exactly is happening underground. So I want to talk about these new leaning bars that have been installed, specifically at the West 4th Street station. We saw them with our Kirsten Cole, who was there live for us this morning. Some riders feel they were installed to discourage homeless from using benches, right, to sleep. So we were sent a statement in the last hour from an MTA spokesperson calling this a pilot program. But it's not the first time. The MTA did this a few years ago, faced backlash for it. So I guess, can you help us clarify and understand what's the real motivation behind the change?
So honestly, you know, there are a number of different stations that have a number of different ways that we try to work with that station itself. So sometimes it's, you know, adding additional seating. Sometimes it's leaning bars. We also try to look at what the customers need. So some locations, customers, the headways are a lot tighter. You don't really need seats to sit there. So, you know, this was one of the great initiatives that we did working with NYPD, the city. That was part of a whole large set of changes, which included power washing the station, you know, maintenance, cleaning, and painting the station. There's a whole host of changes that we're putting in there.
Well, you just talked about how you want to improve accessibility, but a lot of riders say that they felt like these leaning bars are actually making stations less accessible for everyone, especially for seniors and people with disabilities.
Well, I can understand everyone has a viewpoint, but I think our viewpoint is like, you know, we try to appeal to the masses. There are a lot of things that we're putting in a lot of great stations. And so there certainly is no effort to dissuade folks, those who have other challenges in their commutes.
Is there a homeless factor at all for the decision there?
I'm sorry?
Was there a homeless factor at all when it came to the decision?
No, I don't. I think that, the teams that went out there, again, it was a joint team that went out there, and they looked at all different things that we could add to those stations. This was one of the things that it was determined that folks would actually enjoy. So I think that was the real primary indicator for bringing some leaning in there.
Let's talk about subway safety, because that is big right now, on top of everybody's mind. Another teen critically injured subway surfing last week in Queens. I don't know how many times I have to say, just don't do this. So are there any other additional safety measures, Mr. Critchlow, being looked into how to maybe prevent this from happening?
So listen, very, very sad situations. Having a 13-year-old myself, it's heartbreaking to see what's going on with these kids. We're always, trying to do different safety campaigns. We've been meeting with Department of Education. NYPD has been out there engaging with the schools. It is a multi-pronged attack on how to get these children to stop doing it. We've talked to the crews that are on trains, told them what to look for in the scenarios where the individuals may look to surf, congregating at certain areas of the platform, at certain stations. And if you notice, many of these stations, NYPD is actually waiting at locations that we've given them where we've seen it in advance. So we are trying really hard to stop this, but some of it has to really happen at home.
Yeah. Speaking of subway safety, subway crime is actually down, according to the NYPD, down 15% in February compared to this time last year, and it's down 26% overall so far this year. But what about safety on the platforms? We've had several incidents involving people being pushed onto the train tracks or jumping in front of trains. What more is being done to prevent those incidents?
So, it really is a collaborative effort with NYPD. We've had a number of sit-downs with the chief, Galata. It's been a really great relationship. They've added additional cops on the overnight section, which I'm sure you've heard about. Yep. That's had great response from employees that are saying, listen, seeing them on my train has been extremely comforting for them as well. But if you think about it, we've had this whole program of installing platform barriers. Mm-hmm. Now we're up to 17 locations, which is a low cost and efficient way to give some distance between the tracks and those folks who are standing on the platform. So really happy of the progress that we're making, and looking forward to doing more.
Okay. Well, I know you're hitting up a lot of bus depots this morning, so please give the MTA workers our thanks, too, for all the hard work they do each and every day. And thanks to you for coming on this morning.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Of course.